So I'd just like to add my welcome. So I'm Dr Margaret Barnes Davies from the University of Leicester. I'm the admissions lead at Leicester Medical School. I'm not a clinician, but I do teach on phase 1 of the course for the medical students and teach in the School of Biological Sciences as well. And I've been leading admissions for many years now. So have quite a few years of experience behind me in this. So I would just like to run through some slides to just consider a bit from your perspective as teachers and advisors, how you can support your students when they're thinking about medicine or thinking about other health related courses. So the first thing I would suggest is that you really do encourage them to explore the career, and particularly to think about what their motives are for thinking of going into medicine or dentistry, pharmacy, or any of the health-related careers. They need to think about what their own skills and strengths are, so that their skills and strengths meet the needs of that career, so that they will feel comfortable in that career. And also kind of look at what their weaknesses are. And importantly, I think it's important to get them to look at their goal and see, is it realistic for them? Are they going to be able to meet the requirements of that course? Are they going to be able to meet the requirements to get into the course? And I'm sure that you're very familiar with that, and you're well able to kind of do that and to get them to consider these different aspects. When we look at personal statements, now we don't routinely read personal statements or score them anymore, but we will look at them in a tiebreaker situation or at the end. And also when we're doing interviews, often candidates will tell us that they go into medicine because they love science and they're fascinated about the human body. It's their fascination for the human body that's led them into wanting to go into medicine. And yeah, that's important, and we really do want them to be interested in science, and there is a reasonable amount of science in the degree. They do need to be able to cope with that. But on its own, it's not enough. They really do need to be good at relating to people. We want them to come in because they're interested in people, because they can relate to people, and they want to help people, they want to care for people. It's also important that they've got to be resilient as well and able to operate under pressure, because medicine and the other healthcare professions are quite pressurized careers. It's not something that they should go into lightly. They should be aware of what the career is like and know what the expectations will be. And they must, like I said, have this really strong desire to care for others and be able to show empathy. And for some of them, when we interview them, we think they're not there yet. And that might be that they just need more time. I mean, that might be especially true when you're interviewing perhaps 17-year-old boys. Perhaps they've just not matured enough yet. They don't really show these characteristics. So it might be that they're more suited to perhaps doing, say, a science degree and then moving into the career later. Or it might be that something like medicine and health-related courses are maybe not for them. So getting them to explore that as well, and to realise that just being interested in science alone isn't good enough. And if they're going into it because they have a desire to care, then that is wonderful and that is brilliant, and that is what we really do want. But again, on its own, it's not enough, because these courses are academically demanding and they do have to be able to cope with the academic side. And it's true that some health-related careers are more academically demanding than others. So, for example, medicine and dentistry are very highly academically demanding, but other ones are as well. Physiotherapy, radiography, and nursing, etc. There's a range of requirements that are needed, a range of entry requirements, which often reflect the range of academic rigor that is required on the course as well. And it's worth knowing that there are a huge range of different health-related careers, so that you can advise them about the other things that are available if it turns out that they don't get the grades they need, or they're just not academically suited to it. So there is a bit of managing expectations and realizing that the profession they're entering into is one that has lifelong learning and requires a strong resilience and level of commitment. But having said that, as I said, not all are necessarily ready at the point where they're leaving school or ready to go into, say, a standard 5-year medical degree. But there are different routes. For example, there are different routes into medicine, and it may be that some need to take a slightly longer route around and maybe go into medicine with a gateway or foundation year. And we have one of our breakout sessions that covers those degrees, those 6-year medicine degrees. It might be that they enter having first studied another degree and go in for graduate entry into the health related profession that they're seeking to go into. So again, with medicine, we have a session that talks about the different routes of entry into medicine, a breakout session for that. So there's one for the foundation course and one for different routes into medicine. It's also worth having really good alternatives to suggest and places that you can send them to look at other health-related courses and other things, such as perhaps doing a degree and then training as a physician's associate. So with physician's associates, they're often doing a lot of things that medical doctors would be doing as well. So that might meet the career desires that they have. And so, as I said, there really is a wide variety of other health-related courses. It's absolutely astounding when you look at them. I do, for students, have a slide where I have just a whole heap of different courses up there, you know, from speech and language therapy, occupational therapy, physiotherapy, etc. And one of the places that I would always advise them going is to look at the NHS Careers website. So that is a really good resource for when they're looking to see what career is best for them. And many of these alternative careers can be very, very satisfying and rewarding as well. And again, there is a breakout session on alternative options to medicine as well, and alternative health-related careers. So this is just an image of that NHS website. If you go on there, it's great for all sorts. It's great for medicine. You can even click on there and get to little videos from doctors from different specialities. So if they're looking at medicine as an option, then they might want to know about the different specialities that would be open to them once they've qualified. And then they can go on and look at all the other NHS careers that there are. And as it says, 350 careers, one NHS. So it is really astounding how many options there are open and available to them. So I just now want to focus more on supporting those aiming at medicine, dentistry and pharmacy. And as Rachel has already mentioned to you, the Medical Schools Council have produced lots of really valuable resources. And in fact, they've got together with the Dental Schools Council and Pharmacy Schools Council to put together a website, Studying Healthcare. And at that website, you can go on to that website. And again, I've got an image of that website here. You can go on there and you can click on medicine, dentistry and pharmacy, and you can look and you can see various resources on there. There are resources for potential applicants, and there are resources for teachers as well. So I've just put a image here from the website of the support for teachers. So you can go on there and you can see support that you can access to look at how you can help your students to develop. So you can see things to support them in their application, and also how to support them to prepare for interviews, etc. So as Rachel said, would really recommend that website. The Medical Schools Council does a lot of work bringing together the different medical schools and bringing together all our different requirements and getting information from us as to, you know, our interview processes, etc., in order to inform these resources. So they really are valuable resources. And you can go directly to the Medical Schools Council website as well. And in there you can see resources for teachers and resources for students. And as Rachel's already said, there is in fact a link where you can go on and you can see the entry requirements for all the different medical schools. And I will suggest that to students, that that's a good place to go, because it can be quite a bit of a nightmare trying to find all the different websites for the different universities. So it's actually a good starting point to go there and to see the different entrance requirements and how they match with them. And then from there, they can then click links to get to the actual medical school's website. So once they've kind of looked at that and they've thought, oh, I'm interested in this medical school, these requirements seem to match with what I have, they can then link to the different medical schools' websites. So it's a really excellent place to go, and then from there branch out to look at other medical schools. And as you can see, the information sheets there are information sheets, and there are videos as well that they can watch. So really excellent resources there. So just moving on to the entrance requirements, particularly looking at medicine now. So with most medical schools, they are requiring 3 A's at A level to get into the standard 5-year course. So there are some medical schools that might require A stars. So they might be, for example, Oxford, Cambridge, some of the London medical schools. The vast majority are asking for 3 A's. And some medical schools require chemistry, some require chemistry and biology, but there are many now that don't actually require chemistry anymore. So for Leicester, we say that our standard offer is 3 A's at A level or A star AB. And we say it's in chemistry or biology, and then one other science from chemistry, biology, maths, physics, or psychology. So as you can see, a student could study biology, psychology, and another A level. When it comes to their 3rd A level, I would say most medical schools don't mind what that is, as long as it's not something like general studies, critical thinking, as long as it's something that is academic. So there are differences, and that's where it is good to look on that Medical Schools Council website. So for example, with you've got the various admissions tutors. There are admissions tutors on the chat from, we've got someone from Keele, Nottingham, and Aston on the chat at the moment. And so you can ask them what their requirements are. But Nottingham, for example, would want chemistry and biology, but I think Keele, like us, are chemistry or biology. There are some medical schools that, for example, I'm not sure whether Newcastle still do this, but they said that they didn't have any specific science A-level requirements. Having said all that, the vast majority of our applicants we find still have the traditional chemistry, biology and maths, but there is a slight move away from that in recent years. The other thing to bear in mind is that there may be contextual offers as well. So if you have students who are maybe from a contextual background, a less privileged background, then they might qualify for a contextual offer. So it's worth looking to see what contextual offers are available. And again, in one of the breakout sessions on the different routes into medicine, we will consider contextual offers in that as well. And then there are the courses that are medicine with a foundation or a gateway year. And they typically have entrance requirements that are a fair bit lower. So at Leicester, we say 3 Bs at A level with the same subject requirements. And some say 2 Bs and a C at A level. So do encourage your students to look around if you think that they might be eligible for those. So most of those courses are aimed at widening access. So again, they would have to have some contextual flags typically to get onto those courses. So again, there is one of the breakout sessions that relates to the medicine with foundation or gateway year. So medical schools will also look for minimum GCSEs as well. And some of them might say that you need minimums of A's or 7s at GCSE, and some might have lower requirements than that. So at Leicester, we say grade B or 6 in English language, maths and 2 sciences. And for our medicine with a foundation year, it's grade C or 5 in the English language, maths and 2 sciences. And some medical schools might allow resits of the GCSEs and some won't. So again, it is so important, and there has to be quite a lot of research done by the students to look and see what the different requirements are. And as medical schools, we are conscious of that. But again, that's where that Medical Schools Council website helps, because the GCSE requirements are on there as well. So when we select for interview, medical schools will first of all look and see if we've got students with predicted grades for A level, then we're looking at their GCSE, and we're also using admissions tests as well. So we might score the GCSE and the admissions test, or some medical schools might put a high requirement on the GCSE. So at Leicester, we score GCSEs and we use UCAT as the admissions test, and we score that as part of our selecting for interview. And so the message I want to get over to you is that the GCSEs are incredibly important. So your pupils, really your students have to work hard at their GCSEs and get good GCSEs. And I think it's really worth emphasising that at an early age, and really kind of looking at the career options early on, so that if they are aiming for careers in medicine or healthcare, that they really do work at those GCSEs, so that they when they come to the point of applying, they have a really good, strong set of GCSEs. And so that's what I would really say, is please do encourage them to really work hard at their GCSEs, and that will open so many more doors for them when it comes to applying for courses like medicine. And as I said, we use admissions tests as well. So that could be UCAT or BMAT are the 2 admissions tests. Now, the vast majority of medical schools use UCAT, but some do use BMAT. And when it comes to preparing them for these tests, I would say that it's really important to encourage them to actually get on and register early, and then book their test. Get on and book their test early as well, so that they book a test that gives them time to practice, but do tell them not to book a very late test, because they need to be able to, if something goes wrong, if they're ill on the day, be able to go in and book another test. So if they're in the final week of testing and something goes wrong, then they might not be able to do the test. And if they haven't done the test, then they may just not get considered at all. The next message about both those tests is that practice really does matter. The more they practice using the resources available, then the better they will do. So they really do have to be quite conscientious about practicing. There are free online practice resources that they can use. They don't have to go to commercial sources for practice material. In fact, the official online ones are the best ones to use. There are timed tests as well, and to practice under a timed test for UCAT is really important. My other message is that if they are eligible for a bursary for UCAT or BMAT, then please do encourage them to get that bursary, to apply for that bursary, because many of the medical schools use the bursary as one of their widening access flags, one of the widening participation contextual flags. So they might look and think, well, it's not that much money, oh, there's all the admin involved with applying for it. But it is really important that they apply for that bursary, and that they we then get told from UCAT, we get told that the candidates that have had a bursary, and we can use that as information to help us in our selection. So as I said, UCAT's the one that's used by most medical schools, and the registration is from this year from the 24th of May, and then they can start booking tests on the 20th of June, with testing beginning on the 11th of July. And you may be aware that there are 4 cognitive subtests to UCAT. That's the verbal reasoning, quantitative reasoning, decision making, and abstract reasoning. And then there's the 5th test, which is the situational judgment test, when they get presented with various situations and they've got to make a judgment as to what's the best thing to do in that situation. And it really does require them to practice these things. They're not going to do well if they don't practice. So please encourage that practice. Encourage them to go to UCAT's website and practice. So when it comes to recruiting, because we're recruiting for the NHS, all NHS recruiters are required to use what's called values-based recruitment. So we're recruiting, looking at the values of the students, and we're recruiting so that we recruit people whose values align with the values of the NHS Constitution. So I would encourage your students to look at the values of the NHS Constitution and to see how they can show that their values align with that, that they can demonstrate those values. And they can perhaps do that from the experience that they've had throughout their life, and then that will help them when it comes to interview as well, that they can show and demonstrate those values. Again, as I've said, the Medical Schools Council has leaflets and advice on preparing for interviews at medical school. One of the things they can do to help demonstrate that they have the values that we're looking for is perhaps volunteering or working in some way. So when I say that, I don't mean shadowing. We don't actually need shadowing. And that's of limited use for us, because the candidates are watching what's happening. So they're not demonstrating to us that they have these values and these skills that we're looking for us. But if they can manage to get some volunteering opportunities, or even employment, either in a caring role or in a service role, then that can demonstrate these values as well. The kind of shadowing work experience is actually more valuable for the student themselves if they're exploring the career and they want to know more about it. But they can find out a lot about that from that NHS website. There's also, oh, just spotted a typo there. There's also the Dr U Talent Academy. And that's a place where they can go to look for work experience. Now, the work experience that's on there is mostly around the Lincoln area at the moment, but it is something that they're hoping to develop more. But as I've said, that work experience, shadowing work experience, is more for the applicant themselves. So I'd just like to sort of highlight that there is also a a session, one of the breakout sessions, that's about support, particularly about how you can access support available for your students. And it'll look at things like progression programs and what medical schools have to offer to students to give them support in looking towards their application and preparing for their application. So that's all I really wanted to say in this talk. I don't know if there's time for any questions. Have we time, Sarah?